You're a dominant big man. How do you decide in the game? Because Charles and myself, we were a score first score. How do you say, you know what, I'm not going to take a shot 6-7 minutes in the finals game?
To be honest, I don't decide. I just take what the game brings me, and I never chase scoring or whatever. I just play the game and see what's going to happen.
You know, you guys, for anyone that's even paid just a little bit of attention to the Denver Nuggets over the last couple of years, a response to a question from Nikola Jokic like that really isn't that far-fetched at all. But for anyone that doesn't pay attention to them, it might seem just a little bit out of the ordinary that a back-to-back MVP in Game 1 of the 2023 NBA Finals is pretty much telling the entire world, yeah, I really am not the one to decide if I'm going to score or not. And I'm sure that some of you are just taking this as simple selflessness behind the mic from Jokic, but to be honest, he could not have been more accurate with saying that, and that's essentially what the 2023 Denver Nuggets are in a nutshell. And believe me, while I do know that we've barely scraped the surface yet in terms of what this series could potentially develop into down the road, there's still some things that the Denver Nuggets are already doing that I don't think many people expected to see for the majority of this entire series. But if you guys are looking for more NBA Finals and offseason content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications to never miss another NBA video. Okay, so to get back on topic with the Denver Nuggets, while there were many different storylines and talking points to consider heading into this series, whether they had to do with the absolute dominance that we've been seeing from the Denver Nuggets or even the Cinderella run that got the Miami Heat here, it felt like the biggest discussion, at least in my opinion, had to do with really the size differential and overall roster composition between both of these teams, and more particularly how it majorly favored Nikola Jokic. And I mean, most people could probably put 2 and 2 together as to why this was the talk of the series, considering Jokic and the Nuggets just came off walking all over the Lakers and Anthony Davis in the Western Conference Finals. And after seeing this display of dominance for 4 straight games, you can't really blame people for expecting him to have an absolute field day when the 2 primary defenders on him in this series were more than likely going to be an undersized Bam Adebayo and Cody Zeller. Yes, I too still can't believe that Cody Zeller is getting NBA Finals minutes in the year 2023. Nonetheless though, while the path obviously did look a tad easier for Nikola Jokic to individually succeed in these NBA Finals, you'd still be pretty naive to think that Erik Spoelstra and the Miami Heat wouldn't do everything in their power to take Nikola Jokic out of the game by literally any means necessary. And while, at least through the film, it seems like we've already seen multiple different ways in terms of how Miami is actually going to initiate that strategy, but what's very easily the craziest part to me about everything that we've seen is that instead of seeing both Nikola Jokic and Michael Malone try to cook something up to get around what the Miami Heat are actually throwing at them, I know it probably sounds ridiculous, but they're literally not doing anything to counter it, because instead they're just taking and running with everything Miami's giving them. Just take Aaron Gordon as the first example of what I'm trying to get at here, because while I'm sure that most of you are somewhat familiar with the borderline flawless start that we saw from him in this series, just trust me when I say this, that it was definitely not a coincidence that he was the one getting fed like he was the back-to-back MVP. Because in order for the Miami Heat to try to limit Nikola Jokic's paint presence in this series as much as they possibly could, it seems pretty clear that they were going to try to do so by having their defender on Aaron Gordon sag off of him to clog the paint literally anytime he was even close to the perimeter. And while most of us probably understand why they would do this, considering Aaron Gordon isn't the best outside shooter, Denver almost immediately realized what they were actually doing, and the adjustment that they made, the Miami Heat I don't think were ever expecting. Because instead of having Aaron Gordon just camp out near the post where his defender was going to be regardless if he was in an off-ball situation, we saw them actually resort to Aaron Gordon taking the ball up the floor and initiating the offense. And in these situations, where obviously whoever's defending Aaron Gordon isn't given the same amount of leeway to actually sag off of him, just look at how open the paint has become for Denver. I mean, seriously, it was ridiculous. And whether these instances actually resulted in creating almost 2 easy opportunities for his teammates, or even the seemingly endless number of mismatches that he saw that he took full advantage of every opportunity opportunity that he was given, despite almost being considered unplayable at one point or another in this postseason. Aaron Gordon has once again proved that he can be a vital piece to a championship team in this manner, and as we said, it's just one of the upsides to the selflessness of Nikola Jokic. Now honestly, it just feels kinda ridiculous to keep talking about the fact that the guy that just dropped a 27-point triple-double in the NBA Finals is also the guy who took the backseat to his teammates in that very same game. But that is the crazy part about this team, because with how Jokic's usage genuinely comes through the flow of the offense, no matter the situation or the circumstance, it is the biggest reason as to why they're so unguardable. And for another example of this, let's look specifically into how the combination of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are operating in this series. Because, well, if you were one of the few people left on earth at this point that haven't seen the lethal abilities of the Jokic and Murray pick and roll, I personally want to congratulate you for finally seeing the perfection of it firsthand. Because while in most of these situations, whether it was a pick and roll as we just mentioned, or even a dribble handoff that they like to incorporate from time to time, I would lean in the direction of saying that Miami did a pretty adequate job for the most part in terms of actually defending it. I mean, hell, in most of these situations, Miami even knew it was coming, but the skill set of Jamal Murray to complement what they're already fully focusing on to try and stop in Nikola Jokic, at times at least, seems to make this team borderline unguardable. This specific play, in my opinion, just shows us the ridiculous level of potency within Denver's offense. To start, I mean, what's new? You have a Jokic Murray pick and roll at the top of the screen. Then, as that develops, Miami either has to choose to close out on the mid-range jumper that Jamal Murray's going to take that he seems to knock down like 75% of the time, or they're going to have to shift their focus to what would be a wide-open Jokic roll to the paint. And keep in mind, the only reason that the paint is wide open is because Denver loves to stack their 40% three-point shooters on the outside that the Heat practically have no choice but to face guard. Can any of you guys out there guess what happens next?
Brilliant defensively. Jump shot Murray. His second field goal.
Yep, there's that contested Jamal Murray jumper we were talking about that he tends to make a lot. But then, even as we'll probably eventually see at some point in this series, when either Jokic and Murray don't have the hot hand, or they're just not getting as good of looks as we've already seen from them, that is specifically why the entire rotation around these guys was built in the manner that it is. Because as we've frequently seen throughout this postseason, and even in this series so far, the role players on this team are more than capable of capitalizing when they are needed to. And to be completely honest with you guys, if the Nuggets were looking this good already in the series without Jokic aggressively hunting mismatches and his shots, well, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what it looks like if we do get to that point. Nonetheless though, you guys, I'm also extremely curious to hear what you all have to think about what we've seen so far in this series, so please be sure to let me know in the comments what surprised you the most, and of course, who do you have winning it all? But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you out there for watching. I appreciate you all more than anything. You all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.